In most cases, when somebody is serving a prison sentence, they can't commit crimes against those outside the huge walls and barbed wires. Unfortunately, these North and South Carolina inmates were able to bypass their restraints using cell phones. On this week's episode of Caught, presented by Catfished, we're going to be taking a look at a catfishing case so bizarre it's got its own name: Operation Surprise Party. An infamous case investigated by the Naval Criminal Investigative Services, Internal Revenue Service for Criminal Investigations, the Department of Defense Criminal Investigation Services, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, the U.S. Army Criminal Investigations Command, the United States Marshal Service, the South Carolina Department of Corrections, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, just to name a few. The story takes place from 2015 to 2018. Inmates from the Carolinas formed a sextortion ring where they targeted more than 400 service members and catfished them out of $560,000. These inmates worked tirelessly to get service members to give them incriminating information that they could potentially use against them in order to extort money from them. The inmates essentially created a highly organized catfishing network, all of which were from behind bars and under the noses of the police. Several military investigators waited outside the Broad River Correctional Facility as members of Operation Surprise Party were being indicted. 15 inmates at the Department of Corrections in North and South Carolina have been issued indictments for going on dating sites using the identity of pretty girls and targeting military men. They portrayed themselves as young women whose nude pictures they found online. After meeting and developing a relationship with the servicemen online, the inmates would then send the nude photographs. After some time, the relationship would become more and more intimate, which gave inmates a better opportunity to strike. They would then call the servicemen claiming to be the young girl's father. They would state that their daughter was underage and threatened to leak the messages to their superiors and the police if they didn't send them money. U.S. Attorney Sherry A. Lydon in a press conference stated, "This case should sound the alarm that our military faces threats of these types of crimes." How they got the phones to catfish the military men was a shock to everybody. Investigators learned that inmates were getting contraband phones by getting their girlfriends and/or family members to bring them in. One of the ways the inmates got the phones was by having their friends put the phones inside of a basketball or a football and throw it over the fence onto the prison courtyard. Thinking these were just regular balls, nobody, including the police, would think to check them for anything. U.S. Attorney Sherry A. Lydon additionally commented on these crimes on how the inmates received the funds. If the military member took the bait, they would wire the funds to the inmates through the use of a prepaid debit card. With the card numbers, the prisoners were able to activate them through the contraband cell phones they received from over the wall. If they were bold enough, the inmates would even have their victim wire the money directly to their prison accounts. The Department of Justice released a statement that any of the service members that were involved with the catfishing scam would not be charged for the crimes typically associated with adults preying on minors, since the underage girl they were talking to was fake and created by the inmates to bait them. Investigators hope that now that the indictment is out in the open, more victims of this network will come forward so that way they can better understand the scale and power of this operation. Brian Sterling, the director of the South Carolina's Correctional Department, stated, "Though they are physically incarcerated, these inmates are virtually out there among us." As a result of these indictments, 250 more inmates are currently being investigated for their involvement. As of now, we don't know how the judge is going to be punishing them, but we do know that the crimes of this magnitude can carry the maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and a $500,000 fine. And so concludes the unorthodox case of the Carolina inmate catfishing ring. Let us know in the comment section down below if you think that the service members are still guilty for talking to an underage girl, regardless if the account was fake or not. For more in-depth details on this case, please feel free to check out our blog linked in the description down below. For teasers on new episodes, be sure to follow us on our other social media platforms, hit the notification bell and subscribe button to be notified when the next episode of Caught, presented by Catfish, goes live.